Hello everyone, my name is Rosalice González May and my team is conformed by Alma Pilar Vargas Peralta, Ana Jimena Rangel Acosta, María del Rosario Palomares Awak, and Rafael Manriquez Hernández. Today I'm really glad to announce that we will explain to you a little bit about the research we have carried out during the last semester on medical ways simply to treat patients with COVID-19. As we know, pollution disproportionately affects certain groups of people. Therefore, we consider it essential to ask ourselves, what is pollution in times of COVID-19?
Hi, my name is Jimena, and I will tell you about the introduction. It is known that the sanitary situation that we are going through is difficult, but we may not know the correct handling of sanitary wastes that are used in hospitals or that we even use ourselves. It is important to know this, since they contain microorganisms that can be very harmful for the general population. This is why we will investigate the correct disposal of this. According to the agency, 2,516,413 people have been notified about the study protocol of COVID-19. Of the total, 1,184,968 have tested negative. 52,272 remain a suspect without evidence, and 118,264 are suspects with a possibility of a result. At the same time, the positivity rate remains at 38% at the beginning of the epidemiological week 44. It is estimated that of all of the waste generated by healthcare activities, approximately 85% is common waste exempt from danger, and the remaining 15% is considered dangerous material that can be infectious, toxic, or even radioactive. It is estimated that each COVID-19 patient produces an average of 2 to 3 kilos of waste considered dangerous per day. Medical waste contain microorganisms that can be very harmful and can also infect hospital patients, healthcare personnel, and the general population.
My name is Rafael. That's right, there also exist other possible infectious hazards, as the spread of drug-resistant microorganisms right after their release in the original environment in sanitary establishments. The existing evidence indicates that the virus lives up to 3 hours in the air after being dispersed, up to 4 hours in covered surfaces, up to 24 hours in cardboard, and up to 2 to 3 hours in plastic and stainless steel. The virus permanence on this material, which come from the SUR, solid urban residues, converts them into a possible epidemiological transmission source. In our country, the SUR management involves regularly in the bags teardown in order for the residues to be removed during the chain management, being highly probable that we'll get in contact either directly or physically with dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of individuals. Before the final deposition, they became an additional risk for the population in general and the ones involved on this process. In consequence, urgent measures should be taken at least during the whole residues management process, from the generation until the deposition.
Hi, my name is Alma, and to continue with the investigation, we have our general objective, which is to understand the required process for the management of the medical waste in hospitals and healthcare institutions. As specific objectives, we have to investigate the processes managed by the hospitals to throw away the sanitary waste used by COVID-19 patients, not only in Puebla hospitals but also in Mexico in general. All of this to create a contrast while performing a popular science research.
A fundamental part is creating awareness in the population about the proper management of sanitary waste. But how will we achieve that? As we all know, social networks have become key in the diffusion of information. That is why we wanted to take advantage of the constant use of the technology nowadays, so we are able to disseminate and create consciousness about the correct use and disposal of some personal protective equipment, taking into account that these media like Facebook and Instagram allow us the rapid expansion of certain resources that we have developed in order to attract people's attention and cause a positive impact that helps stop the spread of this disease as well as to take care of the environment.
The NOMS, by its acronym in Spanish, or Normas Oficiales Mexicanas, are regulations expanded by federal government dependencies and they established certain conditions and specifications that had to be applied to either products, services, or installations within the national territory. Speaking of medical waste, the norm 087 establishes the general classification of biological waste that might be a risk for the society if it's not well managed. This waste is considered biological infectious if it's blood, lab cultures or strains, non-anatomic, pathological, or sharp objects.
Likewise, this official standard clearly specifies the steps to be followed by all those institutions that provide health services, starting with the identification of waste, packaging, temporary storage, its transport, and final disposal.
The PPA are adequately designed in order to create a barrier between the possible causal agents that endanger our integrity, as the virus. The PPAs have evolved over the years based on the needs that have arisen as the medical advances occur, and this can be clearly seen when we look back and see that all of this started with some rustic and unconventional materials, such as tortoise shell, sheep skin, among others.
Previous studies, sanitary waste have been around for a long time. However, these are increasingly problematic for society, especially when they threaten security because they are medical waste. Over the years, there have been multiple biological studies that have shown the risk and the importance of their proper disposal. Among them, they are medical study in La Habana in the 2000, medical study in La Habana in the 2003, international medical study of 2010, medical study in Mexico in the 2014, environmental study in Mexico.
And last but not least, when it comes to statistics, even though there is no clear statistics onto the 2020 general increase of the medical waste, it is easy to imagine in a full panorama, mostly when we have the data of past years, whereas in 2001, the Mexican population generated about 1.38 million tons, and to make things worse, it is estimated that in 2012, the Mexican population generated about 4.58 million tons. Keeping this in mind, some researchers showed that the domestic and personal waste increased from a 3.5% onto a 17% and included the domestic statistics along with the biological infection waste. It is estimated that the total medical waste increased up to a 300% in comparison with last year's. But without the COVID, we generated about 1.5 kilos per person in hospitals. In June 2020, we reached a level that went into 16,000 tons, and in the critical scenario that we are today in 2021, 21,000 tons of waste have been reached approximately.
Now, following the medical waste, the treatment of it is strictly regulated by classification, in which they are classified by color, and the way to dispose them might vary. They are divided into red, the highly toxic supplies like syringes, green, biodegradable materials, and yellow, energy pollutants that could be batteries or medical equipment.
Nowadays, lots of medical units in Mexico have strict protocols in matter of the sanitary waste. Nevertheless, there are still remaining some institutions without these measures, and to do this so, it's easier by just using the social networks, such as Facebook, Instagram, etc. Spreading our work through these networks might help us to reach more people and to promote our actions in favor of waste management. In conclusion, it's more than enough to get a good internet connection, a strong conviction to achieve a huge change.
Each person had a name, each person was loved by someone. Let us ensure that their dates were not in vain. Setsuko Turlo survived of the August 1945 atomic bombing of Hiroshima. Good morning everyone, I'm Jaciel Castillo, your host today, and today we're going to present you the debate bombing of Hiroshima. In the past, during the Second World War, one of the most important moments happened when the United States decided to bomb Japan in order to finish the war. Some people say this was completely justified because it helps ending the war that had already taken many lives. However, some other people think that this was completely wrong. It was inhuman and there is nothing that could justify this slaughter. That also costs a lot of innocent people's lives. Along with me, we have with us the two teams that are going to explain you today this team. on in favor and on against. Let me introduce themselves.
Good morning, I'm Denise, and before starting, I would like to explain some of the main reasons why I believe that the atomic bomb of Hiroshima and Nagasaki have no rational justification. First of all, the uranium bomb detonated in Hiroshima caused approximately 140,000 deaths. And second of all, I strongly believe that the bomb was detonated in order to extend some country's power rather than ending a war, which I find unacceptable.
Hello, dear public, my name is Maffer, and following the ideas of my partner Luis, we believe that the events that took place in 1945 have no justification we can consider as a good tool to stop the war. Having the following points, we are going to explain you why we are against, like the health damage, the discrimination, and the wrongful deaths.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosario Palomares, and today I'm going to explain you why do I think the Hiroshima bombing is actually justified and not something inhuman as everyone says it was. First of all, it ended the war because of the weakening of the Japanese Empire. When they failed, they saved millions of lives, and this also helped stopping the cruel Japanese Empire from torturing and hurting Asian people.
Hello, my name is Jimena Rangel, and I will also be explaining to you my reasons why I believe this attack was justified. Despite all of the death and damage caused by this, in certain way the attack helped by putting an end in a war that was occurring.
Now that all our participants have stated their position, let's start with the debate.
I would like to say that no attack will ever justify, not even the war and the resources that they used to stop it.
So, if the war continued, all those deaths that were caused by the war will be justified just because it wasn't because of an attack.
Well, each and every aggressive action against the place or enemy with weapons or armed force is considered as an attack, so we would be wrong to think of war as something other from it.
We need to keep in mind that even though this was a horrible thing that happened to the city and a lot of innocent lives were lost, this did help to put an end on the war that they were going through.
So it wasn't another defect that came after the nuclear attack, because this had repercussions not only for the people that lived in 1945, but also for the future generation that suffered the results and effects of the radiation that had Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which still continue.
Yes, and following what my classmate said, it is also important to remember that it takes only a few seconds for an atomic bomb to reach its maximum capacity. However, all the effects last decades, which means that along with the great amount of people that were maimed, the rates of cancer, leukemia, and some other diseases were increased because of the radiation.
But I mean, if we're talking about side effects that we got from the attacks, why are we not mentioning that we got attacked first by Japan with the Pearl Harbor bombing? The Pearl Harbor bombing declared the war against the USA, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki ones were only trying to end what they started first, and also looking for the freedom of all the people that have been suffering under Japan's government.
We can't also forget about all the things the Asian countries were saved after this bombing, like for example, the massive murders, and the small Japanese military records on the deaths were kept secret or destroyed shortly after the surrender of Japan in 1945. In 1946, the International Military Tribunal for the Far East in Tokyo estimated that over 200,000 Chinese were murdered in this event, and it also put an end for the comfort women, which was an euphemism used to describe women who were used by the Japanese military during World War II.
So, if you're saying that Japan attacked first, are you implying that it was some kind of revenge from the USA? And if so, do you really think the main reason for this bombing was ending a war? Or they were simply holding a grudge? Because let's remember that Germany had already been defeated before even the Trinity test happened, which only leaves the USA and Japan trying to impose their power over each other.
Look, I'm not saying that it was a revenge. I'm saying that we are not for monsters for doing something that was done first to us, but no one talks about it because we were not in Europe. And also, let me tell you something. Even though the European War had ended, all of the countries were abandoned for all the other European countries, so they left China, Singapore, Korea, Philippines alone, under a government that was murdering them every day just because. They were also starving, and we cannot forget the comfort women that Japan used from Korea. Till this day, there are many comfort women alive who still suffering from this trauma.
We are not supporting the action that the Japanese empire did before and during the World War. The main point here is that the measures that the USA took were incorrect, because it was an injustice for the innocent people that were living in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and replying to your comment about Pearl Harbor bomb, in contrast of USA, this bomb took place on military bases, where most of the losses were military ships and planes, and not cities or capitals where most people live. In addition, that the bomb from Japan wasn't a nuclear bomb. We do not justify the tool that Japan used, however, it's important to keep in mind that both parts were wrong because they did not look for a better way to solve their problems.
I understand that, and I get that both sides took the hard path. However, I think we're only condemning one side of the story.
During this debate, we were able to hear diverse opinions of the debaters. Each of these opinions were listened to with due respect. That is how I conclude this debate, and on behalf of 6th semester Group 3, we appreciate your attention.
Okay. Hello, Santiago. How are you?
Fine, teacher, and you?
Fine, thank you. So, thank you for attending this interview. I'm going to ask you some questions about the curriculum and the personal statement that you did during class. So, are you ready?
Yes.
That's how we talk. So, first question. Can you tell me about your chosen course of study? I mean, where do you want to study at the university?
Well, I don't actually know. I'm kind of, I don't know. I want to study something related to art, like making manga or something like that. But at the same time, I know if I can't study that, I must have a plan B, like an engineering or something like that. If the case that I can't make the drawing career.
Okay. So, do you think that the strategies that we have for GAC are helpful or will help you in the future?
Well, I think they indeed are helping us, like making the curriculums. So when we are a little bit older, we can know exactly what to do in a real situation of making a curriculum for a real job. And I think it's a quite good idea because nowadays everything is digital, and having this digital course is, I think, the best way in this generation. And so I think that's great.
Okay, now tell me, what are your strengths and your weaknesses?
Well, my strengths are that I basically do everything drawn. I rather make my ideas drawn than written. I'm good making teamwork, but the bad part is that I'm a little bit introverted, so I'm a little bit antisocial with new persons or partners in my work that are not related to me or be my friends. So I think that's my only weakness. And to my strengths, I'm very creative. I work too much, and so.
Okay, I think we are in one point, like you mentioned. Next one. How do you plan your study time? I mean, you have an organizer or something?
No, I study when I must.
Okay. Well, in that case, how many hours a week do you spend on independent study? I mean, extra time that you have in the afternoon for studying something, or
Like
you don't
an
do
hour,
extra studying.
like an hour or two, maybe.
Okay. And well, the last question. What do you think are the steps to becoming a better learner or university? At university, sorry.
Oh, that's quite
Interesting.
interesting. Well, I think as always study, try to keep the study learner that you are. So when in the future that you are in university is not that hard to keep studying, and you can rely on your past experiences and skills. So it could be easier and less painful the studying part.
Okay. Well, Santiago, I think that will be all. Thank you so much for coming, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a nice day.
Same.